Hello and happy October. Today I'm going to look back at the month of September and do a little monthly review, a little checkpoint. How did I do? How are my results? And what am I doing moving forward to get better and work towards that goal of profitability? So, started off the month with a banger. Not really. My first trade of the month was a loss, and I blew the account. So, that was bad. That was bad, and that really took a toll on me from an emotional, psychological standpoint. But it led me to realize a lot of things. Before blowing this account, I got a payout on an account before it. So I had just gotten a payout. It was my first payout of the year in July. So super pumped. Got the payout. Oh my gosh, I want to make so much money now. My focus is completely on the money. Forget the process. Let's make money. That led to all of my trades sucking horribly because all I cared about was the dollar value. And I reflected and realized that after blowing the account and taking a week long break, I decided, all right, not going to trade for a week. Let me just chill out here and reflect and take a chance to refine my edge and my focus. Yeah, I have notes on my wall that say you are chasing money and it is actively ruining any chance in actually making money. Which, and it's even dated for September 4th, 2025, because after that trade, I blew the account and it was just really sucky to do. I will say though, there was no tilt involved in blowing the account. There was a lack of psychological discipline in my discretion when picking what trades to take and not take. However, I never broke risk management. I stuck to one trade a day for the entire month of August. I stuck within my risk parameters in terms of dollar value, how much I was allowed to risk, and I followed that to a T. My lacking came to when I was either picking targets or placing trades, like my discretion in terms of should I take this trade or should I not take this trade. That's where my discretion lacked. Moving forward, taking a break, I back tested like crazy, like a ton of back testing over that break. I realized one of the things I lacked the most was daily bias. So I spent a lot of time, I flipped through literal years of data just on the daily chart and just spent time flicking through the days, marking out, all right, what's the daily bias? Where are we headed to next? Where are we headed to next? Where are we headed to next? That was literally my entire focus was let me drill daily bias hard because that's where I think I was lacking a ton. I was following the model in my trades, but my targets weren't always accurate or right. So I spent the week trying to fix that, as well as tweaking my strategy, only taking trades after 10 a.m. and lowering my risk to reward. My average risk to reward was like a 1 to 1.3, so really small. But that plus a 53% win rate across 81 trades, that's profitability. And it doesn't matter what your capital size is at that point. If you're profitable, you can make a lot of money. So, that being said, this is the approach I'm taking now. Moving forward to my current P&L, it's not going crazy hot, but it's also been four trades. So what can you really say about four trades? Not really much to evaluate from there. It just hasn't been a big enough data set collection. That backtesting chart you saw, this was over 11 months. So really not a lot of trades for each month. It was spread out. I'm not trading very frequently and my targets are pretty small. In this P&L, I faced something I didn't anticipate facing. Let me actually pull this up so you guys can see. So here is the wild checklist I made. Another thing I made, this was after the trade I took on Friday because I faced an unforeseen issue in terms of backtesting. Your emotions aren't tested in the same way they're tested in the live markets. And I faced that pretty head on when I had waited all week long to take a trade. And on Thursday, I finally took a trade and I lost. And I was like, dude, this is killing me. And then I forced a trade on Friday and lost there. And that was just, these two losses hit me so hard. I have $2,000 of drawdown. At this point, I was literally break even. I was a little bit above break even on the account. And I was in such a horrible mental state because I had waited the whole week to take a trade. And then I lost it. And I was like, the world is ending. But the world's not ending. We just need to learn from our mistakes, treat the failures as lessons, and improve. Several things come of that. Number one is a checklist. So I made a huge checklist to follow through each day. First thing we check, we're going to trust God regardless of the outcome. We're going to do our best to make our best trade under our best judgment, and then we're going to let go of the result. We're going to have no expectations. I don't expect this to win. I don't expect this to lose. I'm going to follow my procedure, and I'm going to leave it alone. Alongside of that, I'm only going to be taking a trade I would be willing to lose. So if I take this trade and I lose, am I going to be upset at myself because I made a poor decision, or was it just luck of the draw and, stuff happens? Trading times 10 a.m. to 12. Risk to reward 1 to 1 to 1 to 2. My risk per trade is $200 to $299. And then I have the target previous to high, London high, other high, previous day low, London low, other low. And then my criteria to take a trade at the daily and the 4 hour do have to be in line with the target, the daily draw, and the C2, the candle 2 closure has to occur off of a point of interest, and it obviously just has to occur. Then I enter on the closure my stop loss placed on the wick and my take profit at target. And at this point, my job is complete. Hands off. Journal. The journal's going crazy. I'm kind of happy about this. Before I show you what the journal is and what I've been doing here, is I've turned into someone who does enjoy to write, and I write less for me to read, more for me to think about things. Because when I'm writing, I'm forcing myself to deeply think about the day. I don't often come back and reread journals. Sometimes I do, like I have a section in here that you'll see where sometimes I do come back and I read this section, but a lot of the reason for my journaling is it forces me to think beyond just, oh, that trade sucked, I'll forget about it and trade tomorrow. It really forces me to dig in there. So, I'm happy with this. It's big though. The journaling has been heavy. I started this last week, I think. And we're diving fully in here. I've got a video going over the process of journaling, if you want to check that out. The different sections and why I think they're valuable. I'll go over them briefly, but this is another thing that came this month. So I started this the day I lost that trade and blew the account. I said, I need to journal again. So we're back. We're back to journaling on my trades. We've got the date. We have, is it high time frame supported? We have the trade I take. Is it mechanically valid? If I lost it, what did I learn from the trade? Why did I make the mistake mechanically? From a mechanically standpoint, were there certain things that I did not follow or that I forgot about? And then why did I make the mistake emotionally? Oftentimes you can chalk it up to being mechanical mistakes, but there's typically an emotional driver in the background that led you to either dismiss the mechanical mistake you made and say, oh, that doesn't matter, I'm going to take the trade anyway, or simply forget because you're focused on your emotions of whatever aspect. And then be your mentor. This is the part where I seem like a bit of a crazy person because I will speak to myself as if I were profitable and say, you knew what to do. Here's what you should be doing. Don't do it again. Learn from your mistake. Because oftentimes we can look at our mistakes and say, yeah, I know, you're supposed to do that. And that's essentially what this section is. It's, you know what you should be doing. You know the right answer. You know the processes you need to take. And that's what that section is all about. So this is my journal that I started to become a better trader and hopefully yield some better results for the month of October. I'm optimistic. I think this is great. I used to journal a whole bunch. I shouldn't have ditched it in the way I did, but I'm happy that I'm back to doing it. I've got the checklist, and that feels good. It kind of sticks me in this rigid thing to keep me in my emotional guidelines, my psychological guidelines, without bouncing off the walls or forgetting things or ignoring or dismissing or whatever the case may be. It's rigid of here's what you do. And at the end of the day, I reflect and I journal deeply. So I reflect and remember deeply. So it's October time. October. We're gonna make money this month. Maybe, but we're not focused on that. We're focused on the process, not the profit. Because if we're focused on making money, I'm gonna lose it again. So, not a great month, but the fastest growth periods are often the most miserable. So, it wasn't a miserable month. I won't say a whole month was miserable because that's taking away a lot of the good that came from it. But it was a challenge, and a lot of lessons were learned, and a lot of changes were made, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this performs as we go into the future. So, it's October time. Thanks for watching.